There is a curious law working silently in the universe. The thing you most resist is often the very doorway to your freedom. Life does not oppose you, it educates you. What appears difficult is not punishment, it is preparation. The soul is never tested beyond its power, and the moment you feel resistance, you may know that strength is being summoned within you. Most people pray for ease, but ease has never built mastery. Ease creates comfort, and comfort creates sleep. The universe does not reward sleep, it rewards awakening. Every time you choose the harder path, the path that demands discipline, courage, and faith, you awaken a higher force within yourself that cannot be stopped by circumstance, opinion, or fear. Hard things are not hard because they are cruel. They are hard because they call forth qualities that remain dormant in ordinary living. Patience is born in waiting, courage is born in uncertainty, and faith is born when there is no visible evidence. When you do what is hard, you are not struggling, you are activating laws that always respond to effort made in alignment with truth. The outer world mirrors inner obedience. When you avoid effort, life becomes heavy. When you embrace effort, life rearranges itself in your favor. The universe delights in cooperation, and cooperation begins when you say, I will do the thing my fear tells me to avoid. Fear is not an enemy, it is a signpost pointing toward expansion. Many desire success without discipline, victory without surrender, abundance without alignment. But the law is exact and impartial. It says, give first, act first, believe first. The unseen always responds after the visible effort. Faith without action is a wish, but faith in motion becomes law fulfilled. When you rise early instead of indulging in delay, you are not just managing time. You are commanding energy. When you speak truth instead of seeking approval, you are not risking loss. You are inviting power. When you remain consistent, while results are invisible, you are planting seeds that cannot fail, for the unseen realm is always at work before the seen. Hard choices refine character, and character is the true source of dominion. Circumstances bow to those who have mastered themselves. The person who can govern impulse, endure silence, and persist without praise has already conquered the world inwardly. Nothing external can overthrow an inner kingdom built on discipline and trust. There is a divine economy at work. What you give in effort is returned in strength. What you give in courage is returned in opportunity. What you give in faith is returned in results beyond imagination. Nothing is ever lost. The universe keeps perfect accounts. Do not ask for obstacles to be removed. Ask for the wisdom to move through them. Do not ask for ease, ask for alignment. When you are aligned, even hardship becomes a servant. Every delay becomes instruction. Every challenge becomes an announcement that a greater capacity is being installed within you. You become unstoppable not by force, but by agreement with higher law. When your actions match your highest knowing, resistance dissolves. Life ceases to oppose you and begins to cooperate. Doors open without struggle. Help arrives without strain. What once required effort begins to flow because you have already paid the price of discipline. Remember this, the hardest step is always the doorway. On the other side of discomfort lies authority. On the other side of persistence lies freedom. On the other side of obedience lies dominion. Do what is hard while others hesitate. Do what is right while others delay. Do what requires faith while others demand proof. In doing so, you align yourself with forces that do not fail, do not tire, and do not retreat. And when this alignment is complete, you will find that nothing can stop you, not because the world has changed, but because you have. The hard choice is never random, it appears precisely when a greater capacity is ready to be awakened. Within every individual lies power that remains dormant until it is summoned by demand. Comfort never issues that demand. Ease never knocks on the door of latent strength. It is only when the soul stands before a difficult decision that hidden reserves begin to stir. The universe, exact and intelligent, presents resistance as an invitation, not as a barrier. What feels heavy is often sacred ground, for power is concealed where effort is required. Every hard choice carries with it a secret agreement between the individual and the higher laws that govern life. When you choose what is right over what is easy, you signal readiness. Readiness causes unseen forces to mobilize. There are laws that do not respond to desire alone, they respond to decision. A firm decision made in truth releases assistance that cannot be accessed by hesitation. The moment you decide to act despite discomfort, you align with currents far greater than personal will. Most people believe power arrives first and action follows, but the law works in reverse. Action aligned with truth summons power. Courage does not appear before the step, it appears during the step. Strength is not given in advance, it rises as it is required. This is why the first movement feels the hardest. The energy has not yet caught up with the intention. But once the movement is made, power rushes in to meet it, and what felt impossible begins to feel inevitable. Hidden power is obedient power. It waits patiently until called. It does not argue, rush, or announce itself. It responds only to those who are willing to move without guarantees. The universe trusts those who trust it enough to act. When you choose the harder path, you demonstrate faith in unseen support, and unseen support responds with precision. This is not chance or luck, it is law in motion. Hard choices often dismantle old identities. They remove the familiar masks of comfort, approval, and habit. This can feel like loss, but it is initiation. The self that avoids difficulty is not equipped to handle dominion. Authority requires refinement, and refinement requires friction. Gold is not purified by ease, it is purified by fire. The fire does not destroy the gold, it reveals it. There is a misconception that hard choices drain energy. In truth, avoidance drains far more. When you resist growth, energy leaks into anxiety, doubt, and stagnation. When you face growth, energy consolidates. Focus sharpens, purpose clarifies. The mind becomes quieter because it is no longer divided. Indecision scatters power, decision gathers it. Higher laws are not impressed by words or intentions alone. They respond to embodiment. When your actions reflect your highest knowing, you come into harmony with order. Harmony creates momentum. Momentum creates inevitability. This is why once a hard decision is made and honored consistently, obstacles begin to dissolve. What once required force begins to require alignment. Resistance fades not because effort stops, but because effort has been transmuted into authority. Every hard choice you honor expands your spiritual jurisdiction. You gain command over fear by walking through it. You gain command over circumstances by refusing to negotiate with limitation. The universe does not reward those who complain about difficulty. It rewards those who use difficulty as a proving ground. When you stand firm in truth, life engies itself to match that firmness. The hidden power awakened by hard choices is not aggressive, it is calm. It is the quiet confidence that comes from self-trust. Once you have chosen discipline over indulgence, truth over comfort, action over delay, you no longer need external validation. Your alignment becomes your assurance. This inner solidity is what makes a person unstoppable. Circumstances sense it. Opposition loses interest in those who cannot be swayed. Higher laws operate with absolute fairness. They do not judge effort by size, but by sincerity. A small hard choice made consistently carries more power than a grand intention abandoned quickly. Each time you keep your word to yourself, you build spiritual credit. That credit expresses itself as opportunity, protection, clarity, and timing that feels almost miraculous. The path of least resistance often leads to the greatest struggle, while the path of greatest resistance often leads to peace. This is the paradox of power. When you stop running from effort, effort stops chasing you. When you stop bargaining with fear, fear loses its voice. What remains is a steady unfolding, guided not by impulse but by law. Hard choices refine perception. You begin to see delays as instruction, challenges as placement, and resistance as confirmation that you are moving correctly. Life speaks most clearly when you are listening through action rather than thought. Action silences confusion. Movement reveals direction. As hidden power awakens, you notice a shift in how the world responds. Help appears at precise moments. Ideas arrive fully formed. What once felt like strain now feels like cooperation. This is not because the world has changed, but because you have entered a higher agreement with it. The soul that consistently chooses growth over comfort, becomes a clear channel for power that is orderly, sustaining, and act. Such power does not exhaust, it renews. It does not shout, it commands quietly. It does not rush, it arrives on time. Every hard choice is a seed placed into the invisible. The harvest is guaranteed by law, though the timing remains sacred and exact. Those who understand this no longer fear effort. They welcome it as evidence that something greater is unfolding. They know that whenever life asks more of them, it is because more is ready to express through them. Discipline is the language through which faith becomes visible. Faith without form remains an idea, but discipline gives it structure, rhythm, and direction. When discipline is present, resistance loses its authority. Resistance thrives in chaos, delay, and inconsistency. The moment order is introduced, resistance begins to dissolve, not because it has been fought, but because it no longer has a place to stand. Many believe resistance is an external force, something imposed by circumstances or other people, but resistance is often an inner signal of misalignment between intention and action. When desire says one thing and habit does another, friction is created. Discipline resolves this friction by bringing the inner world into agreement. Once agreement is established, energy flows smoothly, and what once felt heavy begins to move with less effort. Faith is not passive hope, it is active trust. Active trust moves before evidence appears. Discipline is the daily proof of that trust. Each disciplined action declares confidence in unseen outcomes. The universe responds not to anxiety about results, but to consistency of alignment. When faith is practiced through disciplined behavior, higher laws begin to cooperate without delay. Resistance weakens when it is met with routine. What the mind fears loses its power when approached regularly and without drama. Discipline removes emotional negotiation. It says, "This will be done regardless of mood or outcome." This removes resistance's favorite weapons: doubt, procrastination, and self-pity. What remains is simplicity. Simplicity creates speed. There is a quiet authority that comes from disciplined faith. It does not argue with obstacles, it passes through them. It does not react to delay, it uses delay as preparation. When discipline governs action, impatience fades, because trust has replaced urgency. You no longer rush results, you allow results to assemble naturally. Faith gives meaning to discipline, and discipline gives evidence to faith. Without faith, discipline becomes rigid and exhausting. Without discipline, faith becomes sentimental and weak. Together, they form a force that transforms resistance into cooperation. The universe recognizes this union and responds with precision. When disciplined action is taken repeatedly, resistance begins to reverse itself. What once blocked progress starts to support it. Challenges become teachers rather than enemies. Obstacles redirect energy instead of stopping it. This is the moment when life stops pushing back and starts guiding forward. Consistency signals readiness. Higher laws do not respond to intensity alone, they respond to reliability. A person who shows up steadily is trusted with greater flow. Discipline proves that you can steward what you are asking for. Faith assures that what you steward will multiply. Resistance often appears strongest just before alignment is secured. This is not opposition, it is adjustment. The old patterns are losing control, and the new order is establishing itself. Discipline holds the line during this transition. Faith keeps the heart calm while the structure rearranges. When discipline is practiced without complaint, resistance loses its emotional charge. What once felt personal becomes mechanical. You do the work, take the step, peak the truth, and move on. This neutrality is powerful. It removes drama, and without drama, resistance cannot survive. Faith anchored in discipline creates an inner stillness that no external condition can disturb. Decisions become cleaner, reactions become slower, confidence deepens because it is rooted in experience rather than expectation. You trust yourself because you have proven your reliability to yourself. As resistance fades, cooperation emerges naturally. People respond more favorably. Opportunities align without force. Timing improves. This is not coincidence, it is resonance. When your inner world is ordered, the outer world reflects that order. Discipline trains the nervous system to remain calm under pressure. Faith trains the mind to remain open under uncertainty. Together, they create adaptability. Adaptability dissolves resistance because it removes rigidity. Life flows toward those who can move with it. When faith is disciplined, effort becomes lighter. You stop pushing and start placing energy correctly. Resistance often comes from misplaced effort. Discipline corrects placement. Faith sustains momentum. The combination makes progress feel supported rather than strained. Over time, disciplined faith rewires expectation. You begin to expect cooperation rather than conflict. This expectation subtly influences behavior, tone, and timing. Life responds accordingly. What you expect through faith and demonstrate through discipline becomes the pattern that reality follows. Resistance cannot coexist with clarity. Discipline sharpens clarity by eliminating excess. Faith expands clarity by trusting what is essential. Together, they remove confusion, and confusion is the true source of struggle. When the inner agreement between faith and discipline is complete, resistance transforms into feedback rather than blockage. Each challenge offers informatio instead of frustration. Each delay offers refinement instead of discouragement. The person who disciplines their faith no longer fears resistance because resistance has become part of the process rather than an interruption. Life no longer feels like a battle to be won, but a system to be understood and worked with. In this state, action feels guided. Effort feels meaningful. Trust feels practical. What once required force now requires alignment, and alignment turns resistance into cooperation, making progress steady, quiet, and assured. Inner mastery is the only authority the universe recognizes. Control over circumstances is not granted through force, position, or demand, but through governance of thought, emotion, and reaction. The outer world reflects inner command with exactness. When the inner realm is ruled by impulse, fear, and contradiction, the outer realm responds with disorder. When the inner realm is ordered, calm, and deliberate, circumstances reorganize themselves accordingly. Most people attempt to dominate life without first governing themselves. They seek control through strategy while leaving the mind undisciplined and the emotions unchecked. This creates conflict. The universe does not obey confusion, it responds to clarity. Clarity is born when one learns to observe thoughts rather than obey them, to feel emotions without being ruled by them, and to choose response instead of reaction. Inner mastery begins with attention. Where attention goes, energy flows. Scattered attention produces scattered results. Focused attention produces momentum. The one who can direct attention deliberately becomes the architect of experience. This is not repression, it is refinement. You do not eliminate emotion, you educate it. You do not silence thought, you align it. When self-governance is practiced, outer chaos loses its grip. Circumstances that once provoke anxiety now register as information. Delays that once felt personal now feel neutral. Opposition that once triggered reaction now passes without attachment. This emotional neutrality is not indifference, it is strength. It allows you to move accurately instead of impulsively. The universe responds to vibration before it responds to words. Inner mastery stabilizes vibration. A stable inner state sends a clear signal. Life responds with matching order. This is why some individuals move through difficulty with ease, while others struggle under minor pressure. The difference is not luck, but inner command. Mastery of self creates credibility with higher laws. When you demonstrate consistency of character, the universe entrusts you with greater responsibility. Power is never given prematurely. It is released in proportion to stability. A restless mind cannot hold authority. A reactive spirit cannot sustain dominion. As inner mastery deepens, decision-making becomes precise. You no longer overthink because clarity has replaced noise. You no longer rush because timing has become intuitive. You no longer doubt because self-trust has been earned through discipline. This precision causes circumstances to respond quickly. Delays reduce. Effort becomes effective. Outer obstacles often mirror inner conflict. When the inner conflict is resolved, the obstacle loses its function. What once blocked progress dissolves or redirects naturally. Life no longer needs to apply pressure to gain your attention. You are already aligned. Self-mastery also refines desire. You stop chasing what looks impressive and start choosing what is essential. This removes exhaustion. Energy conserved through alignment is energy available for creation. The outer world responds to this efficiency by offering cleaner opportunities and fewer distractions. Authority without aggression is the signature of inner mastery. You do not need to convince, impress, or dominate. Presence alone carries weight. Words become measured. Actions become intentional. People sense this coherence and respond with trust or distance accordingly. Both responses serve progress. As reactions decrease, responsiveness increases. You become adaptable without losing direction. Adaptability is not compromise, it is intelligence. The universe favors intelligence because intelligence conserves energy. Those who can adjust without panic remain in flow. Inner mastery also transforms patience. Waiting is no longer passive, it becomes strategic. You wait without anxiety because you are not dependent on outcome for stability. This independence signals readiness. Opportunities align faster when desperation is absent. When you govern yourself, you cease bargaining with circumstances. You do not ask life to be easier, you become stronger. This shift changes everything. Life responds to strength with respect. Challenges become proportional. Difficulty no longer overwhelms, it educates. Outer circumstances obey inner posture. If the posture is confident and calm, events align accordingly. If the posture is fearful or rushed, events mirror that state. Inner mastery allows you to choose posture consciously. Consistency of inner state creates predictability in results. Predictability builds momentum. Momentum builds inevitability. Success stops feeling accidental and starts feeling systematic. This is the mark of dominion. As mastery stabilizes, you recognize that control is not about manipulation, but about alignment. You stop trying to bend life to your will and start placing yourself where life can work through you. This cooperation amplifies impact without increasing effort. The mastered individual moves through the world with quiet assurance. They are not untouched by challenge, but they are unshacked by it. They do not avoid responsibility, they attract it. Responsibility flows toward those who can hold it without collapse. When inner mastery is complete, outer circumstances no longer dictate identity. You know who you are regardless of conditions. This self-definition is power. It removes fear of loss and attachment to outcome. Life organizes itself around those who are internally organized. Opportunities, people, and timing align because disorder cannot attach to order. The external world reflects the internal blueprint with precision. In this state, action feels natural rather than forced. Decisions feel guided rather than calculated. Movement feels supported rather than resisted. The outer world obeys because the inner world is already governed.